What's up everybody, I'm Seth Fowler, and a lot of people have been wondering, including myself, how does the UltraBoost 19 compare to previous sneakers like the Adidas UltraBoost 4.0 and the AM for NYC? That was a stupid gag and I shouldn't have done that. Earlier this December, Adidas released a brand new UltraBoost sneaker that really seemed to take the UltraBoost line in a different direction. And that sneaker was the UltraBoost 19. At first glance, this sneaker doesn't even really look like an UltraBoost. Yes, it has a full boost midsole, and yes, it sort of has the same shape as an original UltraBoost, but there's a lot of things about this sneaker that people didn't like purely because of aesthetics. However, people's reaction to the UltraBoost 19 didn't really bother Adidas because at the end of the day, it's a performance running sneaker and not so much a lifestyle sneaker. And the sharp change in design direction becomes very apparent when you look back at a sneaker that wasn't even released that long ago, the UltraBoost 4.0. The UltraBoost 4.0 shares a lot of the same design cues from every previous UltraBoost before it, and even though there have been some minor technical upgrades, the shoe has remained pretty much the same as it was in 2015. UltraBoost purists would definitely debate me on that fact, but at the end of the day, you can't deny the truth. And somewhere in between the original release of these two sneakers dropped a shoe that informed the design of the UltraBoost 19, but was also heavily informed by the design of the UltraBoost 4.0. And that sneaker line is the Speedfactory AM4. This particular version is the AM for NYC, which was specifically designed for running on New York City streets. All three of these sneakers have unique characteristics that define each one, however they do all share the same DNA. So I guess the question arises, which one's the best? Let's find out. So in order to find out which shoe is best, I'm gonna split them up into different elements like the upper, the midsole, and of course the fit. And then from there, I'm gonna go over the pros and cons of each shoe. So why don't we start things off with the first part of the sneaker to touch your foot, the upper. And what better shoe to start with than the original UltraBoost 4.0? The UltraBoost 4.0 sports the classic prime knit upper that we've all come to know and love. Everyone that owns a pair of UltraBoosts seems to love the classic prime knit upper because not only is it comfortable, but it's also stretchy and breathable. Sadly, UltraBoost lovers could debate all day about which version of the prime knit upper they prefer. I personally prefer the 1.0s, but the 4.0s are fine as well. However, no one can really deny the fact that this clean, classic prime knit upper is an easy choice to rock with pretty much any outfit. As for performance, this upper is extremely breathable, which of course is a great thing, but I do find that it's a little bit too stretchy, at least in the toe area and a little bit around the ankle. And because of how stretchy it is, I find that my toes have a little bit too much room to move, and it doesn't really hold my feet down in a place that I would like them, so there's not a huge amount of stability in the toe. Same situation with the ankle. Because of how wide the ankle opening is, and because of how stretchy the prime knit is, your foot can actually slide out of the shoe. If you lock yourself in tight enough with the laces or you go a half size down, you should be okay, but that is still kind of a concern. Continuing over to the AM for NYC, instead of prime knit, this sneaker actually features a textile mesh upper. This upper is nowhere near as stretchy and definitely not as soft. It's actually more similar to fly knit than it is to prime knit. This mesh, however, is extremely breathable, more so than either of the two other shoes. And because there isn't much stretch to it, you find that your foot is held in place a lot better than prime knit. The ankle area is still relatively wide, but because there wasn't much stretch to it, I was never really worried about my foot slipping out. And a kind of cool piece of information about the AM for NYC that doesn't really affect the wearer at all. This sneaker is actually constructed without glue. So that's cool. And actually, I guess probably better for the environment and the people working at the factory. So at the end of the day, that's a good thing. Then moving on to the newest entry, the UltraBoost 19. The UltraBoost 19 actually features a full prime knit 360 construction. And what that means is that the prime knit actually wraps all the way around your foot. So in theory, you should get a much better fit. And I've got to say, even though this is probably the widest of all three sneakers, and I have narrow feet, this shoe actually fits my foot the best. The prime knit 360 is the least breathable out of the three sneakers. However, it's still a knit, so it's still gonna breathe pretty well. And my actual favorite part about the prime knit 360 is that the stretch and the actual give of the material changes based on which part of the shoe you're looking at. And due to that fact, you actually get a much better fit, which I definitely appreciate. The ankle area is about the same width as the AM for NYC. However, it does have a little bit more give on this upper white portion. So it's definitely not hard at all to actually get your foot into the shoe. And once you're in there, the lockdown is pretty solid. So I guess to round off the materials on the three uppers, the UltraBoost 4.0 is my favorite visually. It's a little bit too stretchy for me, at least for performance wear, but when it comes to lifestyle, I think it's a very comfortable upper. The AM for NYC's textile mesh upper is by far the most breathable. It doesn't really have any stretch to it, so if you prefer a minimal runner that's not going to allow your feet to kind of wander around in the shoe, this is probably the way to go. And then finally, the UltraBoost 19's Prime Knit 360 upper. While I don't love the way it looks, it definitely feels the best on foot. But let's move on from the material used on the upper to the midfoot cage and the heel counter. On the UltraBoost 4.0, we've got that classic Adidas 3 stripes midfoot cage that we've all come to know and love. Moving back on the shoe, you've got this simple but clean looking heel counter. And overall, the lockdown from the midfoot cage and the way this heel counter cups your foot feels great. The lockdown on this sneaker isn't the best unless you really tighten up the laces, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. But if you're mainly buying the UltraBoost 4.0 for lifestyle wear, both of these elements feel great on your foot. On the AM for NYC, instead of your separate midfoot cage and heel counter, you've actually got these digitally mapped fuse overlay panels. As you can probably tell by now, the AM for NYC is by far the most minimal of all three of the sneakers, and even though these panels do just feel like thin, reinforced pieces of fabric, they do actually help with fit and reinforce the upper. The AM for NYC also has a couple extra lace eyelets, which definitely helps with customizing your fit if that's something you want to do. And even though these fuse overlay panels don't really suck you into the shoe the way some runners might like, they don't feel bad on foot, and they do help with customizing your fit. Another benefit to this setup is that it's very light, and because there isn't any extra pieces of material on the upper, nothing's ever really going to chafe against your foot. Then moving over to the UltraBoost 19, you've got this one-piece mesh midfoot cage and this 3D heel frame. Visually, these two elements on this sneaker are the least attractive of the three. I think this mesh midfoot cage just feels stuck on and it doesn't match the rest of the upper. However, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the UltraBoost 19 is definitely a return to the performance UltraBoost, and I've got to be honest, it feels pretty good on foot. It's lighter than the old midfoot cage, it's more flexible, it's actually a little bit less breathable than the old midfoot cage, but not really noticeably. The 3D heel frame is also a pretty big departure from the previous UltraBoost because it has no center to it. It's not as stiff as the previous heel counter, which originally I thought would be a problem, but when you actually get this shoe on your foot, it forms to your foot a little bit nicer than the previous one, so I actually prefer the way it feels. Aesthetically, it reminds me of a tiki head's mouth, but that's neither here nor there. But the main thing I really like about this 3D heel frame is that it actually bleeds over onto the Boost midsole, and because it gives this heel area a little bit more structure, you feel a lot more stable. That for me is actually a huge upgrade because you still get that boosty feel, but you never feel like your foot's gonna slide off the boost. So to recap what we just talked about, the UltraBoost 4.0 has the classic midfoot cage and heel counter setup, and in my opinion, it looks the best. However, as you can probably assume by this point, it doesn't feel the best, and even though it's great for lifestyle wear, it's not what I would choose for performance running. The AM for NYC again takes the cake if you're looking for a minimal running sneaker that doesn't really feel like you've got anything on your foot. It's not the most comfortable midfoot and heel counter setup, and it's not going to lock you down like crazy. However, it does provide a lot of options to customize the fit the way that you would like. And then finally, the UltraBoost 19, in my opinion, has the ugliest setup when it comes to midfoot cages and heel counters. However, it is probably the most comfortable. It gives you probably the best lockdown, and I think it feels great. And then to quickly wrap up the upper of these shoes, let's talk about fit. The UltraBoost 4.0 has a pretty neutral fit, and I would say it runs true to size. Because of this huge ankle area, it's very easy to get your foot into the shoe, and in some cases, it almost feels like a slip-on. The midfoot cage and heel counter offer ample lockdown, but nothing crazy, and this extremely stretchy prime knit means that your foot might slide around a bit around the toe. Overall, it's a great fitting shoe for lifestyle wear, but maybe not something that I would choose for performance wear. The fit of the AM for NYC, again, is pretty neutral. I would probably go true to size as well. The upper has very little in the way of padding, and the amount of lockdown you're going to get really depends on how you customize the fit. The fit and feel of this upper is the definition of a minimal running sneaker. The UltraBoost 19, again, is the widest of the three sneakers, but in my opinion, it fit the best. The Prime Knit 360, the mesh midfoot cage, and the 3D heel frame all came together to provide really great lockdown and a pretty decently customizable fit. Even though the shoe has less padding around the ankle than the UltraBoost 4.0, I would still say that the fit and overall feel of the shoe is probably the best out of the bunch. Now moving down the sneaker, you get to that classic Boost midsole. The UltraBoost 4.0 features the same Boost midsole that can be found on pretty much every other UltraBoost. Back in 2015, this midsole really changed the way people thought about comfort when it came to midsoles, and even now it's still an incredibly comfortable midsole, even though it kind of looks like styrofoam. The only thing is now we're used to it, so it doesn't feel that crazy anymore. One pretty big downside that we've started to notice with Boost midsoles the more that you wear them is that over time they do start to get a little bit mushier and they can feel a little bit less stable the more that you wear them. If you're rocking the UltraBoost 4.0 for purely lifestyle wear, it shouldn't really be anything that you have to worry about. However, if you are using the shoe as your daily running sneaker, it definitely might start to feel mushy over time. The AM for NYC has an ever so slightly beefier midsole and apparently is optimized for New York City running. I'm gonna be 100% honest, I didn't really notice that much of a difference, if any at all. but it looks different, so there's that. It definitely still feels good underfoot, and maybe this is just a placebo effect because I know this is a more performance-driven shoe than the UltraBoost, but it didn't seem to bottom out as quickly or really at all compared to the UltraBoost. And then finally, moving to the UltraBoost 19, we've got the beefiest midsole of them all. The UltraBoost 19 apparently features 20% more boost than a regular UltraBoost. And because of the heel counter that spills over onto the midsole, even though it has more boost, it actually feels more stable, which is kind of crazy. Out of the three shoes, I've got to say that the boost on this sneaker is probably the most comfortable. The overall lines and shape of the UltraBoost 19's boost midsole more closely resemble that of the AM for NYC than they do the original UltraBoost, so I'm sure there was some inspiration taken for the AM for NYC, and I bet you there's some smaller changes that are inside the shoe that we just don't know about. Finally, moving to the outsole of all the sneakers, let's talk about traction. The UltraBoost 4.0 features a stretch web continental outsole with these circular nubs, and right off the bat, I've got to say that this sneaker has probably the best traction out of all three of the shoes. The rubber on the UltraBoost 4.0 seems to be a slightly stickier compound, so it sticks to very smooth surfaces better than the other two shoes. And I don't know what it is about this traction pattern, but it seems to grip the ground better than the other two sneakers as well. The AM for NYC also features a stretch web outsole, however there isn't any Continental branding on it anywhere, so I don't actually think this is Continental rubber. The traction pattern has more of sort of a plus sign or square shape to it, which does offer a little bit more surface area, but it honestly feels a little bit smoother and a little bit less grippy. It's not bad, it's fine for sidewalks and pavement, which is what this shoe is made for, so it's fine. And then finally, the UltraBoost 19 also features a stretch web outsole, this time with Continental rubber. It also seems to share that plus sign or rectangular shaped traction pattern found on the AM for NYC. And again, it does offer more surface area, which I guess is a good thing. The rubber compound does seem stickier than the AM for NYC, but there's something about the original UltraBoost 4.0 that just seems to grip the ground better. So in the traction category, the UltraBoost 4.0 seems to win out. So overall, the results probably didn't surprise you. If you're trying to buy a great looking lifestyle sneaker that has tons of color options and still feels great on foot, the UltraBoost 4.0 is a great way to go, and it actually ties for the least expensive sneaker on the list at $180. However, I will say you can probably find a lot of UltraBoost on sale, so if you're budget conscious, this is probably the best way to go out of the three. If you're looking for a very minimal performance-based sneaker that's pretty customizable and has different options based on your region, the AM4 Speedfactory series is the way to go. This shoe is the most expensive out of the three. It comes in at $200 retail, but you can probably find pairs on sale as well. And then if you're looking for an extremely comfortable sneaker that feels excellent on foot, the UltraBoost 19 is the way to go. Visually, I think this is my least favorite, but that obviously changes based on people's taste. But man, this sneaker is comfy, and it feels pretty good to run in. So if you're looking for a sneaker that's good for both lifestyle and for performance running, this is probably the best option out of the three. The UltraBoost 19 retails for $180 and is currently sold out, but more pairs will be available in 2019. But that pretty much wraps up the video for today. Now, I would love to know your thoughts on these three silhouettes and which one you like best, so make sure to leave those comments in the comment section down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe down below if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.